Hey guys, this is Tyler's Take, and these are 5 tips to help you find more sheds this season. Tip number one is know when to go. So there's 2 lines of thinking here. The first is first one in gets first dibs. That can be beneficial to you if you're shed hunting in a heavily pressured area of public land. Being the first one in could allow you to find antlers before the bulk of people get in there to look. But it's important to know when deer or when bucks shed their antlers because typically the deer or the bucks that shed their antlers first are going to be your bigger, more mature deer, which is great because if you go in early, you do stand a chance at getting your hands on a nice big shed. However, you're not going to find the numbers that you would if you were to wait a little bit. You may go in early and you may only find one shed. Yeah, it'll be a big shed, but you're just not going to get what you would if you were to wait. So that brings me to the second line of thinking, which would be to wait until the majority of the bucks have dropped. Most of the country, or at least in here in Pennsylvania, that would mean waiting until mid-March to even April. And by then, most bucks have dropped their antlers, and you can go into the woods knowing that most are going to be on the ground, so you stand a better chance of coming out with more numbers. Not only knowing when to go in as to what time of year to go in, but knowing when or what time of day to go in is important. I like to shed hunt on days that are overcast. A lot of times that's going to be earlier in the morning. More importantly, I don't like to shed hunt on days that are really sunny and really bright. And really the reason for that is when everything in the woods is bright, everything kind of gets washed out and you're not going to have the contrast that you would on a darker gray day. You're looking for those bright white antlers on the ground. And when everything is sunny, it makes it a little bit harder to see. So going in on those overcast days is going to help. Tip number 2 is going to be know where to focus. So there's 4 different areas that I like to focus on. The first area I like to focus on are south-facing slopes. South-facing slopes are good to shed hunt because that's where the majority of bucks or deer are going to spend their time in the winter because they get the most of the sunlight throughout the day. So focusing there can be beneficial. The second would be, this should be a no-brainer, but to focus on bedding areas. Deer spend a long time and a lot of time in their bedding areas. Now, with this, it's important to know that bedding areas that deer are using now are going to be different than the bedding areas that they used in the summer and in the fall. So identifying these winter bedding areas by tracks, fresh droppings are going to be really important. The third area I like to focus are fields and field edges. If you've ever gone onto a field edge, you've found heavily beaten trails and lots of tracks. Deer are spending a lot of their time there. They love edges and habitat, and you want to be where the deer are spending most of their time. Now, in a field, if you can find a field that's still holding some type of food source for these deer, that's going to be perfect. The good thing about fields is you can stand on the outside of the field or the outskirts of the field and scan that field, maybe with a set of binoculars. You're going to be able to cover a ton of that ground with your eyes and not have to walk it all. And, the less walking we have to do, the better. We want to use our time as efficient as possible. The fourth area I like to focus my time is just going to be on deer trails. Again, what's at the end of every deer trail? A deer. You follow a trail for long enough, eventually the deer that's making those trails is going to lose an antler. So walking those trails is going to be beneficial. I don't like to walk in an area where I don't see any tracks because I know deer are not using it. If I can find a trail, I know I'm on deer. Tip number 3 is going to be know what to look for. So when you're in the woods, you want to make sure you're looking for something that looks like this, and you want to train your eyes to find this. You can train yourself to find or be able to spot sheds better by taking some sheds that you have on your own, throwing them out in the woods, backing out, and then going in and trying to find them and just seeing, when did I see that? At what point was I able to identify that shed? You're looking for tines. When you look at a shed like this, you're looking for these tines. This is unlike anything else in the woods. Now, look, you're going to find sticks or you're going to find branches that are on the ground that are going to look like an antler, and that's okay. That's going to give you a little jolt of excitement. Training your eyes to find something like that is going to allow you to filter out a lot of the other stuff that's on the ground in the woods. Also, looking for that bright white contrast that we talked about before. Sheds, especially if they've been on the ground for a little bit, typically they're going to be sun bleached. They're going to have this bright white, and looking for that is going to help you, again, filter out most everything else that's on the ground. Most of what's on the ground right now is going to be a deep, dark brown, because everything's rotting and dying. You're going to have some sticks that are brighter, but most of what's on the ground is brown and dark. So if you can find and look for that bright white contrast, that's going to increase your odds of finding something. Tip number 4 is going to be know how to search. Don't just walk into the woods and bust into an area, start looking. You should have a plan as to what you're going to do and how you're going to search. This is where using something like Onyx or HuntStand or a hunting app or even Google Earth or just a paper map, knowing what your area looks like will help you plan your attack beforehand. So you could do just a basic grid search, which would be go into an area, go up, turn, come down, turn, go up, and just keep doing that until the entire area is covered. Now you're going to have to maneuver around some obstacles. There's going to be thick areas that you won't be able to get into. Maneuver around it, get yourself back on track and keep going. Using some kind of app or tracker is going to be extremely important here. Most hunting apps nowadays will have some type of tracker feature that's going to tell you where you've been. Keeping an eye on that will not only let you know where you've been, but it'll let you know where you haven't been, areas maybe that you've skipped over. It's easy to get turned around in the woods. So using those apps is going to be extremely beneficial to you. Again, we're going for efficiency. The third thing I like to do when it comes to knowing how to search is going to be to scan from high grounds. Even just a little raise in elevation is going to allow you to get eyes on more of the ground than you would if you just had to walk it. The goal here is to cover area with our eyes. And if we can cover a lot of area with our eyes and we don't have to do it with our feet, well, that's even better. So get yourself a set of binoculars, get to a high ground and scan as much as you can, and then move on to the next area. That brings me actually to tip number 5, and that is know what to bring. So when it comes to knowing what to bring, first I'll start with knowing what to wear. For me, I like durability here. When it comes to your pants, I like to wear a heavy pair of jeans or any kind of pant that has any kind of ripstop material in it. Sitka makes, I think it's their back 40 pants or their Harvester pant, I think it is. Most other companies make some type of heavy duty material as well. Carhartt's great. But anything that you can go through the woods and not have to worry about getting snagged on thorns and stickers, because if you, talking back to tip number 2, knowing where to focus, if you're looking in those bedding areas, you're going to be into some thick areas. There's going to be lots of thorns. And the last thing you want is to rip up all your clothes. For a jacket or a top, this isn't the time to put on your puffy coat that's going to get torn to shreds. Wearing some type of durable jacket is going to help. When it comes to your feet, I would recommend wearing some type of comfortable but waterproof boot. I don't like to wear rubber boots. They're just not comfy for me when I'm trying to cover a lot of ground. I mean, if I'm walking 8-10 miles in a day when I'm shed hunting, I don't want to be doing that in rubber boots. Now, if you're in a swampy area, okay, maybe you might need to do that. But wearing waterproof boots is going to be important because this time of year, the ground's going to be wet. There's going to be snow melt, all that stuff. And the last thing you want to do is be walking around for miles in wet feet. It's a little more, doesn't apply to everybody, but hey, if you're like me, I wear glasses when I drive. I don't wear them normally, but I do when I drive. I can just see better when I wear glasses. If that's you, if you can see more detail when you wear glasses, wear them in the woods. You want to be able to pick up on as much detail as possible when you're walking through, because you would be amazed at the amount of antlers you walk by because you're just not able to pick out the detail between the antler and the stick that's laying next to it. So making sure you're giving yourself every advantage. When it comes to stuff to bring, I don't like to go in heavy. I'll bring a little bag that I might carry some water or snacks in if it's going to be a long day, but also I like to bring a backpack to put my antlers in. So that way I'm not having to walk around the woods with fistful of antlers. It's just going to get tiresome, cumbersome throughout the day. So bringing a backpack, and the number one piece of gear I recommend that you all bring with you in the woods is going to be a set of binoculars. Get a decent set of 8 to 10 magnification binoculars and use them. Again, we're going for efficiency. You want to scan as much area as you can with your eyes. The goal is not to have to walk every square inch of the woods. If you can get to that high area, scan with binoculars, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and a lot of effort. Well, guys, those are my 5 tips that you can start using today to get into the woods. It is the beginning of February here in Pennsylvania, and it's go time. This is definitely the time of year that I like to start getting into the woods. Maybe not every area, but starting to get into the woods. Again, I'm all on public land, and I've already seen trucks parked out there. Guys are getting in there. and I want to make sure I can find my few antlers before everybody else picks them up. So those are my 5 tips. If you guys have any tips of your own that you'd like to share with me or anybody else watching, feel free to drop them in the comments below. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you out there.